The Denver Nuggets, they might be resting versus the Bucks, but the Bucks look like they are currently imploding. So we'll see how much that ends up mattering. We're going to talk about Peyton Watson, obviously, and just the play that he has shown lately. It's just been one of a kind. Apparently, him and Wemby are the only two players ever to accomplish a statistical feat like that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Also, Jokic finally is on his way back. Should be back soon. Was looking good before the game, Ryan. We got a lot of stuff to get into. We're going to talk about the major pivot points of the rest of the upcoming season. That's Ryan. I'm Swiper, and this is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Locked On Nuggets. This is your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Swiper, with Ryan Blackburn, here to talk to you about the Denver Nuggets. After back-to-back episodes, doing one about 12, 16 hours or so ago. Great episode last night with Ryan Blackburn. We're going to talk a little bit more about that game. I'll talk about Peyton Watson and the imminent return for Nikola Jokic this season. So shout out, cannot wait to get into it. But y'all, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Brother, my goodness. Ryan Blackburn, how are you feeling today on this Good Friday?
Oh man, it's good. It's cold outside. I have no idea. Got a couple of things that I've got going on this weekend. Obviously, Broncos fans are in for a treat going to that AFC Championship game in this utterly frozen weather that they're about to have. So it's going to be interesting. This weekend's going to be fun, but we are getting to talk about some fun things for Denver and some hopefully very positive things for the Nuggets over the course of these next couple weeks.
Can you tell me what is your prediction for the Broncos this weekend?
Honestly, to me, a lot of it depends on how Drake May handles the Broncos defense, because if he doesn't turn the ball over and they just move the ball down the field, put themselves into position where they're scoring points pretty consistently, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Jared Stidham and the Broncos to come back with it. So I think that Denver loses, but a lot of it, again, is very dependent on if the Broncos can rattle Drake May and if they can put him in a frozen chokehold of sorts with this weather. So I'm curious. What do you think?
Oh, I got Broncos winning. I've laid out my game plan multiple times at this point. I am really excited for the game. Hopefully, this is going to be end of the game, not Bo Nix / Jared Stidham going to try to win the game, but end of the game, the Broncos defense got to stop Drake May from marching down the field for a game-winning touchdown for a bid to the Super Bowl like it was in 2015-16 when Tom Brady was down 20-12. Rob Gronkowski catches a 45-yard ball, double team, mind you. Darian Stewart and TJ Ward were out of the game with injuries at that point. Yeah. Chris Harris Jr. was sagged all over him, and he thought he had help over the top, but the backup safety was just nowhere to be seen. The Broncos then give up a touchdown to Gronk off of a crazy double pump from Tom Brady, and then for the 2-point conversion play, the ball gets tipped, I believe, by Aqib Talib, and then Bradley Roby intercepts the ball. They then get the ball back on the ensuing onside kickoff, and the Denver Broncos go to Super Bowl 50. I am expecting a repeat of that in 2026.
Certified ball knower, folks. He knows what he's doing, knows what he's talking about. And yeah, that was a foundational moment for me. I was in my freshman year in college at that point, and so getting to watch the Super Bowl from South Carolina in a random dorm room was not my favorite, but it was still like a very core memory of mine.
Yeah, I watched that in my 1-bedroom apartment or 2-bedroom apartment in Waco from my chair, and I didn't have money to afford a bed, so I just had like a stack of blankets and like all the other stuff over there. It was a great game.
Man,
it was a great
game. Amazing how far we've come, man. Amazing what 10 years will do.
Yeah, look at us covering the Denver Nuggets professionally. Wow, look at us. Look at us. Who thought we would have been here? And Ryan, I do think this is going to be a fun little detail. Ryan has been talking about this an awful lot, so I think this would be a nice little tidbit for you to cover for the group and for the audience. But Ryan, let's get into it.
Segment, yeah.
So You want to get into Peyton Watson stuff first, or you want to go into tonight a little bit and just for this game?
Well, just give me a couple minutes on Peyton Watson. What do you want to say? Because we did talk about him last. It was a big star performance, and I know obviously Cam wants every excuse to talk about Peyton. Like, so I totally understand.
Yeah, man. I just think that Matt. I think Matt is a pragmatist in a lot of ways, and so Matt and I, when we have discussions about Peyton, and I would also like to bring this up with you here. One of the things that he's most hesitant about is just like, when he has these bad stretches, is this who Peyton is? And he talked about Christian Brown had a great season last year. And when you look at the numbers for Peyton Watson this year as a starter, they're kind of in line with what Christian Brown did last year. Peyton Watson's averaging 17.3 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 2 assists as a starter with 1.1 blocks, 1.1 steals, but he's shooting 52% from the field, 44% from three on 4 attempts a game, and 74 from the line. So that's like on his face, very similar to Christian Brown. But I think the thing that I've been trying to explain to people, the difference between Peyton and the difference between him and the other players the Nuggets have developed, he has a real propensity for truly star level talent development, because it is very rare, Ryan, where you're able to get a player who can create for himself on ball, who grows into being a complete no-show as a jump shooter, into an actual really good jump shooter. And now at this juncture, we're also in a situation where Peyton Watson has had more responsibility dribbling the basketball for this team and creating opportunities. And now they're running those little flare screen / DHO handoffs for Peyton Watson from the left corner, and he's dribbling into the paint for either for kickouts, for floaters, or for his Euro step layups, or if he gets an open lane for a dunk. And now he's a good mid-range shooter as well. I think one of the things that I'm really trying to communicate with folks, man, is if you look at Peyton Watson's numbers this year, Ron, and you look at his shooting and just where he's most effective on the floor, Ryan, on the season, he's shooting 65% in the restricted area, 44% from the non-restricted mid-range area, but 47% from mid-range. And then he's shooting 56% from corner three in the left, and he's shooting 47% from the three in the right, and he's shooting 33% on up above the break threes. And if you just watch the way he's developed this roundness of his game, and the stat I was mentioning to you, this is directly from Underdog NBA, 35 points, 6 made threes, and then 4 blocks and 2 steals. Victor Wembanyama apparently is the only other player in NBA history to record that kind of stat line in a game.
NBA history is a long time. It encompasses a lot of players. So the idea that somebody like Kawhi has never done that, or somebody like Giannis, not really a 3-point shooter like that, but the archetype is just so valuable in terms of being able to do a little bit of everything and finding a whole bunch of opportunities around the floor. It doesn't necessarily have to be a narrow skill and a narrow at one thing. My question, I guess, to you would be, Christian is more narrow, as you've talked about, and as I think everybody really acknowledges from a skill set standpoint. But what he does really well. Yeah. And when he's at full form, when he's playing in an athletic way, in a confident way, then he can rise up over anybody. He finishes a lot of these shots. Sometimes the Peyton sees roll off the rim. The ability to scramble around screens and switch and some of the defensive stuff where he's communicating. I think he has fewer breakdowns than Peyton has had this year. But like, this doesn't have to be a competition between those two guys. My question would be, how long do you want Peyton to continue to run with this? Do you just want to try to see how long it can go kind of in an upward trajectory with this? Or does that have to take away from Denver preparing for the playoffs and trying to hone in on what they're doing with the normal formula that they have? Because this is a change. This to me is a deviation from what the formula has been so far. So I'm curious to see where, kind of what you would take from that.
I think that this has to be it's a necessary deviation, because the thing that they were most great at, it won them a title in 23, and I would argue it's lost them a title in 24, and then it subsequently lost them a title in 25. Now it's not their fault per se, like they didn't have the players and maybe to maximize that. But we talked about all the time. Remember, you and I would have these debates like Michael Porter, wow, 24 points in the first half, 3 points in the second half,
Yeah.
27 points through 3 quarters, 2 points in the fourth quarter, no points in the fourth quarter. They seemingly, in Michael Malone's offense, went away from these non-Jokic, non-Murray specific offensive play types. And I think for me, when I watch them play versus these other teams, if this Peyton Watson was available in that Minnesota series, they get out of that series in 5 games, 6 games. I think some of this is like you got to have a counter to the team. It's counter. Okay, they're loading up on Jokic and they're loading up on Jamal Murray. They're loading up on the pick and roll. They're sending 3 at the short roll. All right, well then let Peyton and Jokic run that then. You can't run that same coverage with him because now Jamal Murray is running off the ball, or run an inverted pick and roll with Jokic and with Peyton Watson, or Jokic with Aaron Gordon, and then give them an opportunity to get Peyton Watson on the roll here. I think for me, the thing that made the OKC Thunder so great in 2012, and I don't know if you remember the series, the best Thunder in that Spurs series might have been James Harden.
Yeah.
Because James Harden, he brought a level of offensive execution to that OKC trio that made them damn near indomitable, even as an extremely young trio and young core. I think Peyton, for me, he is like the third wheel being added to this. And I even think you can agree with this. He has been more important, and I would even say better, as an offensive player and playmaker, even than Aaron Gordon has been since AG's been back.
Yeah, I mean, if I say that, then Matt tries to body slam me in our group chat, but you can say that and it's okay. So no, I hear you and completely understand. I'm not sure if I fully agree, but in terms of Aaron's ability, I think, to manipulate his game around what is needed on a consistent basis is really, really high. And I do think that Peyton sometimes still has a struggle with that, though his peaks have been higher, other than, when AG scored 50 on opening night. Right.
Yeah, so we'll have to get into the other side of that too, because I think there's some stuff talking about with tonight's game, but also Jokic's return, how that might change things for the team. But we'll talk about all that and more in the second segment here at Locked On Nuggets. During basketball season, there is nothing like being in the building. The energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Gametime comes in. The Gametime app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets, fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Gametime app is straightforward and intuitive. Finding tickets takes just a few taps. Seeing your view from the seat before buying makes choosing tickets easy and confident. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LLCKEDONNBA for $20 off. We'll be right back for more here at Locked On Nuggets. We are back here for Locked On Nuggets. Thank y'all so much for joining us here today. Shout out to Ryan Blackburn. Y'all, make sure if you're watching this on Apple iTunes or you're watching this on YouTube and listening to this and saying, who are those great people making all this great content for Locked On Nuggets? Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. Tell everybody. Tell your mama, tell your brother, tell your daddy, tell your uncle, tell your auntie, tell your cousin, tell your grandma, tell your everybody. Tell everybody and say, I want to hear more Ryan Blackburn. Well, make sure you tap in us on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify, give us a 5-star review. That way you can listen to more and more great content being made by us. Also, if you're like, man, I want to be involved with y'all even more. Well, y'all what? Thank you for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Tap in with us with our Everydayers Club, y'all. We have a Discord. Ryan and Matt are in the Discord, especially y'all. People are like, Swiper, where you at, y'all? I'll be busy. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, but I'll try to get in there more. Shout out to you all. If you want more, go to lockedonnuggets.supercast.com and tap in with us with our Everydayers Club. Ryan,
sir,
what are we looking for tonight? What are the expectations we should have for tonight versus the Bucks?
Well, most important expectation is to understand what the injury report looks like. So I'm going to read it off for people. Jokic is still out. That hasn't changed. Cam Johnson is out. Christian Brown is out. Tamar Bates is out. He was crutching around last week after the surgery that he had on his foot. Yeah. So they're probably not going to get him back. until at least March or April. So it's probably a lost season for Tamar, unfortunately. Aaron Gordon is probable after playing 34 minutes last night. Not really sure why, but there it is. And then you have 3 guys who are questionable, who have not been ruled out just yet in Jamal Murray, Peyton Watson, and Jonas Valanciunas. I would not expect Jonas to play on the second night of a back-to-back. I don't think it makes a lot of sense, but it's on him and it's on what the training staff thinks is right for him. But with Jamal, he's been on there and has several injuries that he has had pop up on the injury report. So I hope that he rests. And then Peyton has taken several falls over the course of these last couple of weeks, including multiple last night that were pretty scary. And he played 40 minutes last night anyway. So I think it is time to just rest those guys, punt this game. Aaron, if he wants to play, sure can play. Tim Hardaway, he's trying to get out of a shooting slump, so I understand why he's playing. And then see if you could roll out the group from Philly, basically, that was able to steal a win.
Divine Nine.
Yeah, the Divine Nine. And also, they did the same thing to Milwaukee, like with Hunter Tyson in the starting lineup the last time they played Milwaukee. So there's a precedent for them to be able to do this, especially with Giannis and the Bucks looking very shaky.
What's so fascinating about this, Ron, is like, hey, NBA, if you wanted, before you knew all the injuries were here, to feature Jokic versus Giannis, why do you keep doing this on back-to-backs?
That was a ridiculous one. Second night of a back-to-back, Denver plays, they have to go from Denver after a back-to-back and like a 3 and 4. And then this is the 5th game in 7 nights in Milwaukee that they're going to be playing tonight. So like, yeah, no duh, they're going to rest some guys. No duh, they have to think about themselves. They can't think about the ratings for the league. So if like put it with Milwaukee and then Washington and make it the 4th game in 6 nights, that would have been fine.
Yeah, I just don't understand this. The Nuggets playing 17 games in January and then 11, even though they have the break, 11 next month. They packed in so many back-to-backs. What is it, 4 or 5 back-to-backs in this month?
I believe it's 5. I will say that 17 games in 31 days in January is not new. It happened last year as well for Denver. And it's just something that for a team like the Nuggets, where they are one of the premier teams in the NBA, they're going to have their schedule compressed in the January, February, March, April timeline after football season, when teams and when fans can really dive into them. So I'm not surprised it's happening, but it is just it's a thing that they're going to have to struggle through.
Yeah, I personally, if Jamal Murray and Jonas Valanciunas and Peyton Watson, if they feel healthy enough, play them. And I think they should play. If you feel like you can go out there, you can give your best effort, and you can take a day off and get ready to play versus the Grizzlies, then fine, do it. But obviously, if they're dealing with ailments that are like really, truly bothering them, especially for Jamal, just go ahead and take the time off. Peyton did roll his ankle. That was a very interesting game yesterday. I don't even think we talked about this last night. That Chris Middleton foul.
Matt had a different impression than I think we did. I thought that Chris Middleton kind of slammed him up top with the arm and kind of a weird little bit of verticality there.
Yeah, I don't think he meant to hurt him, but it was clearly reach across the body while in air. And I was just like, that's a very dangerous play regardless of your intentions.
100%. I'm with you on that. To me, if Denver had that happen, then I would expect that to be called a flagrant one against them. So it doesn't mean that it was intentional, doesn't mean that it was malicious, but it was dangerous.
But add that to Peyton falling on the ankle. Yeah. Add that to Peyton then falling on his back one time. Yeah. Add that to the other one where Peyton was dropped sideways and landed on his arm. And I was just like, bro, is there a hit out on Peyton right now? Why is he falling down so much at the rim?
Everybody's like, hey, you think you're a star now? You think you're a star? Okay, let's see. Take a star contact. Let's see if you can handle this. So no, it's a game against Washington. Washington has no idea what they're doing. So I understand. Look, this is how it goes. But for Peyton, this is the rigors of the NBA season and being a star that you're just going to have to be able to gut out a game like this in January. But hopefully it means that the team can back you up and give you some rest in a future game, which is why they rest on second night of back-to-backs a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'm actually curious on the other side. I want to talk to you about the question about the repeater tax and all that. Do you think anything's going to happen with Hunter Tyson, with Julian Strother, with some of the other players that are kind of just on the bench at this point, and they might just need to make some room, for some other players to add to the roster, or just some salary cap relief? And then obviously on the other side, we're talking about Jokic potentially coming back over the next 4 days, somewhere around there. But we'll talk about that on the other side here at Locked On Nuggets. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new. Boost, bonuses, surprises. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We'll be right back for the final segment here at Locked On Nuggets. We're back for the final segment here at Locked On Nuggets. Shout out to you all. Thank you all so much for joining us for this great Friday episode here with Ryan Blackburn. And yeah, y'all. Also, Ryan, I want to say to all of our listeners, if you are indeed in one of the states that's going to be affected by the cold front, make sure you have water. Make sure you have blankets. Make sure that if you leave your house in your vehicle and it is snowing, you have materials in your car, flashlights, water, blankets, all those things to keep yourself warm in case you get stuck, just to be safe, Ryan.
And an ice scraper. An ice scraper in the car is mandatory.
Mandatory. Absolutely. Please make sure you do that. So, Ryan, let's get into the repeater tax thing real quick, because I think there's been a lot of questions about this. This is one of your many areas of expertise.
Yeah, so I wanted to give Nuggets fans a better picture of why people are talking about this. Because when you think about tax concerns, all you're thinking about is cheap ownership. These guys are cheap. They're cheap. Why are they not paying this? What are they doing? I'm here to explain to you why they're not going that high, because how the tax works, especially in the NBA after the CBA was updated in 2023, was that the tax penalties for the aprons, but also for higher tax brackets, are way higher than they were before. The NBA now is trying to make it as penalizing as possible for teams to go over the tax. And if you do it in 3 out of 4 seasons, then you are a repeater tax team. The Nuggets have paid the tax in each of the last 3 seasons. A lot of people consider the Nuggets cheap, but they have at least paid the tax in each of the last 3 seasons, which means that not only this year, but also next year, they will be triggering the repeater tax. They are in trouble with that, because the repeater tax is really, really difficult to deal with. The numbers that I was looking at effectively state that if the Nuggets are going to give Peyton Watson a major contract, a 4-year, $100 million deal, unless they have major pivots away from Jonas Valanciunas, Zeke Naji, maybe they trade one of their other large contracts, they're going to be paying a really hefty bill. I just took those numbers along and then added Peyton's number. It's like 12 players. They'd pay about $238 million in salary. That equates to $210 million in luxury tax payments by itself. So you are basically paying $450 million for 1 year of basketball, which, if you are a fan who doesn't care about that and just wants to see Denver win a title, I don't blame you. That's a completely reasonable take, and it's about ownership and their willingness to field the most competitive team possible. I'm not asking you to feel bad for ownership and the fact that they have to pay it. I'm just trying to explain to you why the Nuggets are potentially going to make some financial moves at this trade deadline, and then potentially in the next offseason, in order to keep the maximum amount of talent possible at the best financial rate that they can. And they're going to try to balance those two things rather than just spend willy-nilly.
Yeah, the CBA is going to be very interesting to navigate because the extreme example is obviously the Boston Celtics. They had a $200 million bill that they were like, no.
Yeah.
And so they pressed the eject button immediately and got rid of a lot of their rotation that helped them to win a title. Do you foresee a world for Denver that, like, you know, hey, you got a chance this year? Is it going to be after this summer, after this title, you think that they're going to kind of like press the eject button a little bit and be like, you know, we're going to get rid of at least 2 of these contracts off our roster?
I think it's possible. I think of course it's possible. If you're Denver, like the easiest one is to decline Jonas Valanciunas' contract. He averages about 13 to 14 minutes a night when Jokic is healthy. You expect Jokic to be healthy for the most part. And like, if you can't really play those guys together, which I don't think they can, then that's $10 million that they could free up. And what that equates to is like $50 million in savings. The same thing is like with Zeke Naji, like if they could break up that contract or at least turn that into another player who's a little bit of a better fit for their permanent rotation, that's one way to save money, to save on that roster spot and actually make it a little bit more productive. But yeah, it's why like you're going to hear about tax saving moves. It's why they have kept 14 players on the roster all season, despite the fact that it's put them at a competitive disadvantage when they've been as hurt as they have. So like, this is the unfortunate reality that fans don't want to hear about, but does exist, and it exists in the real world.
I think it's funny because we actually have no idea how much ownership makes off of these teams.
Yeah.
It's in the hundreds of millions, obviously.
I'm sure it is.
You know, so it is funny to hear that, like, you know, these lines of like, oh yeah, the CBA, you know, we want to pay an extra 80 million, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's not even 25% of your earned income, you know, or whatever else it might be. You know what I mean? Like revenue and income are 2 different things. So like, it's just, I'm curious to see what they do long-term, given that this is the best team they've had, but also this is the downside of the CBA. The Nuggets drafted Murray. They drafted Jamal, they drafted Jokic, they drafted Michael Porter Jr. That's already one, you know, detonation that went off. They got rid of his contract. They traded for Aaron Gordon in 21, but y'all, they drafted Christian Brown and they drafted Peyton Watson. So now they're in this kind of little bit of a financial hardship situation because it's like, you got too many good players you drafted.
Yeah. Like, and to be fair, like, did they overpay for Christian at the wrong time and at the peak of his value?
I wonder who said that. I wonder who among us said that. We argued about this. Not you two. You were also part of that.
I still think he's going to be a great starter for the Nuggets.
No, he will be, but I think it's just the long-term. I think it's the long-term view of the team. I just think that, you know, when we were having discussions about this, I said Nembhard was a good number, but he got Josh Giddey money, and that just pushed you in, you know, puts you a little bit of a bind.
Yeah. No, and like, look, this is the other side of that coin. And so I probably didn't appreciate that in the moment as much. I just thought you pay your guys. And I still feel like you pay your guys. I thought that they should pay Peyton Watson and just figure out from a money perspective. But they wanted to be patient with that. And I think they probably flip-flopped on what they should have done there.
All right. So I have been of the mindset the day the injury got diagnosed and said, what is the return date going to look like? I said the 27th originally. And Matt felt like it was going to be a little early. When do you think we get Jokic back? I think there's a world. He's on the road trip, mind you. I think there's a world he comes back on Sunday at this point.
Yeah, there's a world. Like if he's feeling good and if the Nuggets are in a place of need, then yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't come back if he wasn't ready. I have always maintained that it was the 27th. It was that Tuesday. That's basically exactly 4 weeks at that point. And so I felt that once I saw you also have to keep in mind, this is the other thing that he probably thinks about maybe a little bit more than
all
people
NBA
expect. If he misses Sunday, then if he plays the rest of the season after that, then he's at 67 games played.
Yeah.
I don't think that he would go for all 67. I think he'd probably try to rest 1 or 2 here or there if he could. But like, he also wants to qualify. Like he does want an MVP. That's something that he's interested in. I think he wants, like, he understands that recognition and what comes with it, and I think has started to value it in a little bit of a different way. So, and also he just wants to be back for the team and wants to help them win. So if you see the Nuggets lose in a big game tonight, like in like a 35-point blowout without all their guys, yeah, he might decide to come back and be there on Sunday.
I think you're probably a little more reactionary based on circumstances than I am naturally, and I noticed that when you talk about some of this stuff sometimes. I actually think everything for him has been more so about the timing, and I think Adam has talked about clearing certain checks. I think Jokic just passed so many of them. I just think that the timeline aligns with Sunday and or Tuesday.
Yeah, that's speculation. Like we don't know what kinds of checks that he's actually passed behind the scenes. Like I'm sure the fact that he's warming
no
up,
more than we know that he's panicking if they lose by 35 points, and when we're going to bring him back for him to get a win on Sunday either.
No, I feel like he is of that competitive mindset that if he sees something like that, it might bump up the timeline a little.
But it's a health concern thing more than a performance thing, though. Like if, for instance, if they were 2 and what are they 8 and 5? So if they were 2 and 11, like would that have sped up the prognosis for him to come back? You think?
Yeah.
Oh, so you think that basically is buying time for him to get more health? I mean, but
I think now Adelman,
knee injuries are tough. Yeah, knee injuries are tough. Yeah.
Adelman says that's not the case. I don't agree with him, but also like, this is hindsight 2020. I'm sure that if Yoke would have seen things a little bit of a different way with the way that the team was going, then I think he would have tried to get back sooner. But like the fact is that they haven't had to do that. It hasn't been that reality. The Nuggets have done a fantastic job of making sure to carry the ship without him. And it's given him the flexibility to take enough time within this recovery to be okay with it. But sun's getting real low. I think that we are nearing the return for him, and that's an exciting thing for Nuggets fans. It's gonna change a lot. It's gonna change the feeling, I think.
His MVP, the year he won the Nuggets won the title, he played 69 games that year.
Yeah.
I will say the long-term benefits to this, because this is a low maintenance injury relative to a month injury you can have, because this is just about like the stiffness and the mobility and getting back to where it needs to be. Him having a month off of basketball in the middle of the freaking season, I think it's going to end up paying a big dividend by the time we get to the playoffs.
Undoubtedly. Like he's had to take on so much wear and tear for the team, especially over the previous 2 seasons. Like with the championship run, it felt pretty easy for him, I think. And he was able to kind of pick and choose when he was doing certain things. With the year after, Murray went down and he really had to assume a lot of responsibility. Yeah. And then last year obviously was a gargantuan effort from him. So this is the one where you get off your feet a little bit. You don't have to rack up the miles, and hopefully Denver, especially with Jonas Valanciunas coming back, they could keep Jokic closer to 30 minutes per game for the rest of the season, as opposed to 40 minutes per game for the rest of the season.
They play OKC on the 1st of February, brother. He is not playing 30 minutes in that game. I can basically see that right now. Brian's going to be like, Jokic is at 37 minutes. Now he has 48 and 15, but still, Adam would get him out of the game.
Well, no, it's the fact that he has missed enough time. It gives him the luxury and gives him the flexibility to be able to jump up on some of those games. But like, if he averages 36 minutes a night for the rest of the year, I'm gonna still be a little concerned going into the playoffs. Like it's a lot of minutes.
Who are your top 5 Nuggets right now, by the way, so we can end the show with that? Who are the 5 best players in order?
Jokic, Murray, Gordon, Watson, Cam.
Okay.
Would you like to flip flop a couple, like one of the younger guys and one of the older guys?
I'm thinking.
What is this face that you are making?
I mean, Watson might have to be there at this point, right behind Murray. But I don't know, bro. Who cares?
No, he doesn't have to be there. Like, he has scored at a really high clip. And he's
not just scoring. You and Matt about this shooting hoops thing. It's not just scoring.
It's not just scoring. But I also want to give Aaron the benefit of the doubt on his, like, he has filled the Jokic role in a lot of these games and just like gone under the radar. Like in this last game, for example, when 16, 5 and 5, completely under the radar, did a lot of good things. It was a plus 23 in that game. And I don't even think it was a good game for him, but like, it was plus 23. It really helps.
Nerd stats. That's going to do it here for Locked On Nuggets. Shout out to you all. Thank y'all so much for being here today. Next thing you know, he's going to bring up Darko and EPM. This has been a great episode, y'all. We'll be back with you tonight and then Sunday night after the Denver Broncos get a win over the New England Patriots to advance to Super Bowl 60. See you on the other side.
Broncos.